Wack 100, the notorious Los Angeles figure who has a reputation for stirring things up wherever he goes, recently Wack 100 made headlines with a wild claim about an encounter with Fabolous at a VIP club in San Francisco. And what makes this even more interesting is that Fat Joe was right there in the room. According to Wack 100, this interaction was far from ordinary. He alleges that he essentially ran Fabolous out of the VIP section in front of 30 to 40 people. Now, the sheer thought of this has the internet buzzing because Fabolous has always been known for his composure, even in tense situations. People are asking themselves, could this really have happened, or is this just Wack building hype and leveraging his influence to get attention? The setting for this alleged incident is important to note. The VIP lounge was located in the vault of a Wells Fargo bank in San Francisco, which isn't a typical club setting. With a relatively small crowd of about 30 to 40 people, the environment was intimate enough for everyone present to witness what happened, yet still chaotic enough to fuel speculation. Wack 100 claims that the moment he was acknowledged by Fat Joe, Fabolous suddenly disappeared from the section, moving so quickly that many interpreted it as him being pressured or even intimidated. The narrative Wack is pushing is that Fabolous essentially bolted in front of a number of witnesses, which would be highly unusual given Fab's reputation in the industry. Wack 100 himself has shared the details of this encounter directly. He claims that everything started normally. He arrived at the club, got greeted by Fat Joe, and initially everything seemed smooth. There was no visible tension, and Wack says the interactions began as friendly. However, according to him, the situation quickly shifted once Fabolous entered the picture. Wack asserts that after Fat Joe acknowledged him, Fabolous became noticeably uneasy and quickly left the VIP area. Wack 100 is very vocal about this, emphasizing the speed at which Fabolous exited, suggesting that the rapper was under some form of pressure. The story has become a point of debate because it paints Fabolous in a very unusual light. Now, it's important to consider the context of Wack 100's statement. He has a long-standing feud with Jim Jones, and many believe that his claim about Fabolous may be influenced by this ongoing issue. By making such a bold statement, Wack positions himself as a dominant figure while also drawing Fabolous into a narrative that keeps Wack relevant in online discussions and podcast debates. This is a strategy that has worked in the past for him. Even if the story is exaggerated or partially false, the mere suggestion that he made Fabolous leave the VIP section gets people talking, which is the ultimate goal. However, there are several points that suggest the story may not be as extreme as Wack portrays. Fabolous has a long history of standing his ground, even in tense situations. Fans and industry insiders recall the incident with Ray J at a mall in Los Angeles, where Fabolous didn't back down when confronted. He has consistently demonstrated the ability to handle pressure and maintain his composure. Therefore, the idea that Fabolous would run from Wack 100, especially in front of a New York heavyweight like Fat Joe, seems improbable to many observers. Breaking down the scenario further, it's possible that what actually happened was far less dramatic. Fabolous may have simply chosen not to engage with Wack 100, either out of personal preference or strategic thinking. Choosing to ignore someone doesn't necessarily mean fear. In fact, in the world of high-profile personalities, sometimes avoiding unnecessary conflict is the smartest move. If Fab saw Wack and decided not to interact, that could have been purely a decision to keep the evening calm. Meanwhile, Wack 100's framing of the story as a victory for himself may be an exaggeration meant to enhance his reputation. The role of Fat Joe in this story also adds complexity. According to the claims, Fat Joe greeted Wack 100 in the VIP lounge. His presence may have influenced how Fabolous reacted, not because of fear, but because of respect for both parties. Fat Joe's acknowledgement of Wack could have shifted the dynamics in the room. When high-profile figures interact in such settings, subtle social cues often dictate behavior. Fabolous may have decided that the best way to handle the situation was simply to keep moving, maintain his composure, and avoid escalating any tension. Adding to the complexity is the absence of clear evidence. While Wack 100 claims there is footage, nothing has surfaced publicly to verify that Fabolous actually left because of him. The lack of visual proof has led many fans and commentators to question the veracity of Wack's statement. Authenticity of the claim. In today's digital age, a viral moment like this would usually be captured and shared widely. The absence of such material suggests that either the event didn't occur as described or that it has been exaggerated for dramatic effect. Furthermore, it's crucial to consider Fabolous's character and history in the music industry. He has consistently maintained respect across cities and among artists. Leaving a club in a casual manner or ignoring someone doesn't necessarily indicate fear. In fact, it could reflect a level of maturity and control. The framing of this as a confrontation where Wack 100 pressed Fabolous might be a misinterpretation of simple social interaction. The story also brings up interesting points about narrative and perception in the entertainment industry. Wack 100 is known for his ability to craft stories that capture attention. By stating that he pressured Fabolous, he positions himself as someone influential and unafraid of legendary figures in hip-hop. This narrative strategy works well in social media, podcasts, and public forums, where perception can quickly become reality for the audience. People often take bold statements at face value, especially when delivered confidently by someone like Wack 100. Finally, when analyzing this situation, it's essential to separate facts from assumptions. The known facts are that Wack 100 and Fabolous were at the same club in San Francisco, and Fat Joe was present. Beyond that, the story relies heavily on interpretation and personal accounts. Whether Fabolous left the VIP section because of Wack or simply chose not to engage remains speculative. What is clear is that the incident has sparked widespread conversation, highlighting the influence of perception, narrative control, and strategic storytelling in hip-hop culture. To fully understand this incident, it's important to consider the personalities involved. Wack 100 is not just any figure in hip-hop. He has built a reputation as a controversial and outspoken manager and influencer. He's known for making bold claims and creating narratives that draw attention. Over the years, he has developed a persona that blends intimidation, charisma, and social media savvy. This makes any story involving him immediately intriguing, even if the details are disputed. Wack thrives on perception. How people view him can often matter more than the reality. In this case, claiming that he pressed Fabolous at a club adds to his reputation and ensures that everyone is talking about him, his influence, and his ability to shape events. Fabolous, on the other hand, has an entirely different persona. He is a veteran in the rap industry and commands respect for his longevity, lyrical skill, and calm demeanor. Fans have seen him in countless situations where tensions could have escalated, yet he remains composed. This history of standing his ground makes Wack's claim seem questionable to many observers. In the world of hip-hop, stories about people pressing others are common, but fans often analyze the characters involved to see if the claims align with known behavior. In this case, Fabolous leaving a VIP section doesn't automatically equate to fear or submission. It could have been a simple choice to maintain peace and avoid unnecessary attention. Another factor to consider is the environment of the club itself. VIP sections in nightclubs, especially ones in unique venues like the Wells Fargo Bank Vault, have their own social dynamics. When high-profile artists and influencers share a space, subtle interactions and social cues dictate behavior. Fabolous may have seen Wack 100, assessed the situation, and decided the best move was to keep moving. From an outsider perspective, Wack interprets this as being pressed, while from Fabolous's perspective, it might have been nothing more than navigating a social scene strategically. The role of Fat Joe also adds an interesting layer. As a respected New York legend and someone with long-standing relationships in the industry, his acknowledgement of Wack 100 could have been a simple greeting. However, it's possible that this greeting unintentionally created a situation where Fabolous felt he had to react in a certain way. When you have three influential figures in the same room, perceptions of power and influence can easily shift. It's not necessarily about fear, sometimes it's about maintaining control. Social strategy and choosing battles wisely. Social media has amplified this story like wildfire. Once Wack 100 shared his version, the clip of him explaining the incident went viral across platforms. Fans, content creators, and hip-hop commentators immediately jumped into debates, dissecting the situation from every angle. Screenshots, slow-motion analyses, and live-stream reactions flooded feeds. Some fans sided with Wack, claiming that Fabolous looked uncomfortable and was moving fast in the footage. Others defended Fabolous, pointing to his history of calmness and arguing that leaving a VIP section doesn't mean he was intimidated. The online response has turned the story into a modern-day debate about perception versus reality. Looking back at Fabolous's career, there are numerous examples where he faced confrontations yet never backed down. From the early days of his mixtape releases to high-profile public appearances, he has consistently demonstrated confidence and street awareness. The incident in Los Angeles with Ray J years ago showed that he can handle tense moments without fleeing. His reputation in both New York and other major cities is that of a man who is calculated and unflappable. This makes the idea of him running from Wack 100, especially in front of Fat Joe, seem unlikely to many fans who know his history. The story also brings up the concept of narrative control in modern hip-hop. Wack 100's approach to this incident highlights how perception can become reality if managed correctly. By sharing a confident account and framing it as Fabolous being pressed, he controls the conversation. This is common in the industry, where public statements and social media posts can shape opinions faster than the truth. Fans are left trying to separate fact from opinion, and the lack of verified footage adds fuel to speculation. It's a lesson in how influential narratives are in shaping reputations, even when evidence is scarce. The podcast and Clubhouse audio surrounding the incident have only magnified the story. Wack 100's detailed explanation of what happened, combined with the mention of Fat Joe's presence, has given fans material to analyze endlessly. Every word, pause, and tone is scrutinized, creating a sense of drama that keeps the story alive. For those observing from the outside, it's easy to get caught up in the narrative because of the personalities involved. Wack's confident delivery, Fabolous's calm reputation, and Fat Joe's legendary status make for a compelling story, regardless of how the situation actually unfolded. It's also essential to note the role of timing in this incident. Stories like this gain traction because they tap into ongoing conversations in the hip-hop community. Wack 100 has a known feud with Jim Jones, and by bringing Fabolous into the conversation, he aligns himself with New York artists while simultaneously keeping the spotlight on himself. Timing is everything in these scenarios. If the story had been shared at a different moment, it might not have gained the same attention, but releasing it when fans are already engaged in debates about loyalty, respect, and influence ensures maximum impact. Fan reactions reveal just how invested people are in this narrative. On social media, some fans praised Wack 100 for allegedly asserting his dominance, calling it a bold move in front of Fabolous and Fat Joe. Others criticized him for exaggeration and narrative building, pointing out that without evidence, it's hard to confirm anything. Discussions also delved into the psychology of celebrities in public spaces, analyzing why someone might leave a VIP section and how that choice can be misinterpreted. These reactions show the power of storytelling in shaping public opinion, even when the facts are uncertain. Finally, the larger lesson from this incident is about perception, choice, and strategy in high-profile social settings. Wack 100's claim that he pressed Fabolous creates a story of dominance and influence, but the reality may be far simpler. Fabolous could have left the section by choice, maintaining peace and avoiding unnecessary tension. Fat Joe's presence adds a layer of social complexity, and the small audience of VIPs contributed to the narrative's credibility. What started as a club interaction has become a case study in perception versus reality, highlighting how carefully curated narratives can dominate public discussion. To truly understand this story, it's helpful to look at Wack 100's history with other artists. Over the years, he has had well-documented disputes with multiple figures in hip-hop, including Jim Jones, Blueface, and others. These disputes often involve public statements, social media posts, and bold claims meant to assert dominance or control narratives. Fans of the genre are used to this type of drama, where perception and reputation carry almost as much weight as actual events. In this context, Wack claiming he pressed Fabolous fits a familiar pattern. It's about making headlines, asserting influence, and keeping himself relevant in a competitive industry. Fabolous, however, has been around long enough to understand these dynamics. Unlike younger or less experienced artists, he knows that not every public claim needs a response. His track record shows that he often chooses silence over confrontation when the situation doesn't demand it. Leaving a VIP section quietly, even if Wack 100 was nearby, could easily have been a calculated move. Fabolous's experience in the industry teaches him when to engage and when to avoid unnecessary drama. To fans familiar with his history, this reinforces the idea that Wack's story might be more about perception than reality. The physical setting of the Wells Fargo Bank Club also played a crucial role. It was not a typical nightclub, and the VIP area was small and intimate. In spaces like this, interactions can be misread. A quick movement, a decision to leave, or an acknowledgement of someone else's presence can be interpreted in multiple ways. Wack 100 presenting this as an intense press makes sense from a storytelling perspective, but in reality, it could have been a mundane social choice. For example, Fabolous may have been ready to leave anyway, or he may have prioritized greeting Fat Joe properly over interacting with anyone else. These small details can completely change the perception of an event. It's also worth considering the role of social media amplification. Once Wack shared the story, clips, screenshots, and discussions began circulating rapidly. Fans dissected his every word, debating what pressing even meant in this context. Was it about fear, respect, or mere presence? In modern hip-hop culture, social media reactions often become more important than the actual incident. Fans' interpretations, memes, and commentary help spread the story far beyond the initial event. This amplification can make something minor seem like a major confrontation. The story also brings attention to loyalty and alliances in hip-hop. Wack 100 has open issues with Jim Jones, while Fabolous has connections in the same circles. The claim that he pressed Fabolous could be a strategic move to assert dominance over someone aligned with his rivals. In hip-hop, these alliances are crucial. Fans and insiders pay attention to who interacts with whom, how respect is shown, and how power dynamics play out in public spaces. Even a small incident can have ripple effects in the larger community. Fan reactions online reveal a lot about how people view the situation. Some fans praised Wack for allegedly asserting himself in front of Fabolous and Fat Joe, calling it a power move. Others argued that Fabolous leaving quietly is consistent with his character and reputation for handling situations maturely. Discussions often included comparisons to past incidents, like Fabolous's encounter with Ray J, to determine whether he was likely intimidated or simply making a strategic choice. These debates show how invested fans are in understanding the social dynamics behind the story. The involvement of Fat Joe adds a layer of legitimacy to Wack 100's claims. Fat Joe is respected and has a long-standing presence in the rap industry. By positioning Fat Joe in the story, Wack elevates the perceived importance of the event. However, it's also possible that Fat Joe's interaction with Wack was routine and unrelated to Fabolous's movements. The way the story is framed can make routine interactions seem dramatic, which is a common tactic in creating viral content. Looking at Wack 100's communication style helps explain why this story gained so much attention. He is confident, articulate, and skilled at turning personal experiences into engaging narratives. His explanation of the event, filled with pauses, emphasis, and references to other incidents, makes it sound significant. Even if the actual confrontation was minor, his delivery ensures that fans perceive it as impactful. This is an important lesson in storytelling. How you present information can be just as powerful as the information itself. The incident also highlights the psychology of high-profile social interactions. When multiple celebrities are present, every movement and decision is magnified. Fabolous's choice to leave could have been influenced by timing, energy, or social strategy rather than fear. Wack's claim reframes it as a confrontation, which aligns with his public persona. This shows how context and interpretation can dramatically alter how events are perceived. In addition, the debate about what actually happened underscores a larger issue in celebrity culture: the gap between perception and reality. Fans often form opinions based on limited information, and public figures can manipulate these perceptions to control narratives. Wack 100's story is a textbook example of this phenomenon. He presents a bold claim that forces audiences to reconsider a familiar figure and question the nature of power dynamics.